What if I told you that the frustration you feel about not being farther along in your journey is actually the exact place you need to start? I know that might sound a little backwards if you're sitting there thinking about all the self awareness that you have, all the years you've spent trying to do your best and follow God and take care of everyone else in your life, and wondering why you're still struggling with the same patterns. I have learned through my own journey and through working with many midlife women of faith that the answer isn't in being harder on ourselves or trying to skip ahead to some future place to where we think we should be. The answer is learning to love ourselves exactly where we are right now. Welcome to another episode of the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 169, entitled Start Where You Are. My name is Jill Pack, and I am your host. Today, I'm sharing why meeting yourself with compassion where you are right now isn't settling for less. It's actually the foundation for creating the changes you want most in your life. And I'm going to be honest with you, this goes against what we've been taught about how change happens, but it's the most loving and effective approach that I know. If you've followed me for a while, you have been learning about how your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings fuel your actions. You understand that your thoughts are creating the life you are experiencing right now. Maybe you've read the books, listened to the podcasts, maybe even worked with a coach. You may have more self awareness than you've ever had. But instead of feeling empowered by this knowledge, you feel frustrated. You think, I should be farther along by now. I know better. So why am I not doing better? You're hard on yourself for still falling in to the same patterns, for still feeling resentful sometimes, for still struggling with putting yourself last. Here's what I want you to understand. This frustration is actually evidence that you're exactly where you need to be. When we say we should be farther along, we're essentially rejecting where we actually are. We're beating ourselves up. We're treating our current reality as wrong. But the truth is, you can't create lasting change from a place of rejecting yourself. Think about it this way. If someone came to you feeling frustrated and they're beating themselves up, would you tell them that they needed to be harder on themselves? Of course you wouldn't. You'd offer compassion and understanding. Yet we withhold this same kindness from ourselves. Let me tell you something that might shift your perspective. You are not behind. You are not failing. You're exactly where someone would be who has spent years living with patterned beliefs and patterned feelings. Of course, you still feel frustrated sometimes. Of course, you still fall back into old habits. Of course, there are days when you feel resentful about all the years you have spent putting everyone else first. This makes complete sense given your history. The women I work with often tell me they feel like they should have figured this out sooner. They say things like, I know what I need to do. Why can't I just do it? But knowing and doing are completely different things. Your brain has been practicing these thought patterns for decades. It's like asking you why you just can't run a marathon when you've been training for years to be a sprinter. Your brain needs time and patience to learn new patterns. So let's talk about how we got here, how many of us got here. For years, we've received external validation for being selfless. Society praises women who sacrifice themselves for others. We hear things like, what a good mother, what a good person, she's so devoted, when we put our needs last. Now, of course, we want to take care of the people we love. And there's something that feels noble about self-sacrifice. It aligns with our faith values about serving other people and doing good. It feels righteous to put our families first, to be the one everyone can count on, to never complain about our own needs. But somewhere along the way, many of us crossed a line from healthy service into unhealthy self-neglect. We started believing that taking care of ourselves was selfish. We began to wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor. We started measuring our worth by how much we could give without asking for anything in return. And then one day, we woke up feeling resentful. We looked around and we've realized we've created a life where everyone else's needs mattered more than our own. We felt angry at others for taking so much and at ourselves for giving it. This is when many women start to play the martyr. And I tell you what, I have played the martyr very well. And that includes having this internal dialogue that sounds like this: I do everything for everyone and nobody appreciates me. I can't ask for help because no one does things the way I do them. If I don't take care of it, it won't get done right. So honestly, I struggle with this sometimes, but it's just so good to be aware. And I don't believe that God wants us to sacrifice ourselves to the point that we neglect ourselves. In fact, I believe the opposite. When we're depleted, resentful, and running on empty, we cannot serve others from a place of love and abundance. We serve from obligation and exhaustion, which helps no one. The pattern you've been living makes complete sense, though. You were doing what you thought was right based on what you were taught and what was praised. You were following the model of womanhood that was demonstrated to you. There's nothing wrong with you for ending up here. But the way you speak to yourself inside, internally, has a massive impact on your ability to create change. Many of us have this running commentary in our heads that sounds like you're stupid for doing that again, or you're never going to figure this out, or you're just not that kind of person who can change. You're being dramatic and selfish for wanting more. We call ourselves names that we would never call our best friend. We use a tone with ourselves that we would never use with a stranger. We criticize ourselves more harshly than our worst enemy ever could. Many women believe they have to be hard on themselves in order to create change. They think self-criticism will motivate them to do better. But here's what actually happens when you constantly are criticizing yourself. You create stress in your body, which makes it harder to think clear. You reinforce the belief that you're not capable of change. You waste mental energy on self-attack instead of problem solving. You create shame, which drives you to hide and avoid rather than grow. Your thoughts have become habits. Just like any other habit, they feel automatic and true. When your brain tells you, I'm never going to figure this out, feels like a fact, rather than just one thought among many possible thoughts. But here's the amazing thing about our brains. We can redirect our thoughts to the things that are equally believable, but way more kinder. We don't have to believe every thought we think. I want to say that again. We do not have to believe every thought we think. So instead of thinking, I'm stupid for making the same mistake again, what if we thought, I'm learning and growth takes time, or I'm good at other things? Instead of thinking I should be further along, what if we tried, I'm exactly where I need to be for my journey, or everything is figure outable? Instead of I'm never going to change, what if we tried, I'm in the process of changing, or I can do better next time? Instead of I'm being selfish, what if we tried taking care of myself helps me take better care of others? Instead of I shouldn't feel this way, what if we tried it's okay that I feel the way I feel? And here's one of my favorites: I am loved, because you are. Regardless of your progress, regardless of your struggles, regardless of where you think you should be, you are loved. But before we talk about what it means to start where you are, I want to share some truths about being human that I wish someone had told me years ago. But I'm so glad that I understand them now. Because the truth is we are all lovable. We are all works in progress. These two things can exist at the same time. You don't have to be finished to be worthy of love. You don't have to be perfect to be valuable. We aren't supposed to have everything figured out right now. In fact, we will be learning and growing our whole lives. This is the point of this life. The goal isn't to reach some finish line where we've solved all our problems and we never struggle again. The goal is to keep growing, to keep learning, to keep going, to keep loving ourselves through the process. When we make mistakes, and we will make mistakes, it's so important that we respond with curiosity and compassion rather than judgment and shame. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" we can ask ourselves, "What can I learn from this? What was I trying to accomplish here?" So I invite you to try something. I want you to watch yourself almost like an outside observer. When you can step back and look at yourself as though you are watching a movie, you can see that there's a very good reason for everything you do. There's a logic to your behavior, even when it doesn't serve you well. For example, let's say you notice you've been avoiding a difficult conversation. Instead of telling yourself you're a coward, you might observe, "I notice I'm avoiding this conversation." And that makes sense because difficult conversations have been painful for me in the past. And my brain is just trying to protect me from pain. Many people I work with believe they have to be hard on themselves or they will never change. They think that if they beat themselves up hard enough, this will motivate them to be better. This is a lie that our brain offers us all the time, and it just isn't true. And I want to be clear about this. You will never hate yourself into being better. You will never hate yourself into losing weight or being good with money or being patient with your adult children or creating the life you want. You against you is never a winning strategy. It is misery. Love is the motivator that shame can never be. If you want to create change in your life or in your relationships, you have to love yourself through the process. So starting where you are doesn't mean accepting that you'll never change, that you just are where you are. It doesn't mean settling for less than you want. It means acknowledging your current reality with compassion so you can work with it instead of fighting against it. When you meet yourself with compassion, something beautiful happens. Instead of wasting energy fighting your current reality, you can use that energy to understand it and work with it. Compassion asks questions like, what makes sense about why I'm struggling with this? What do I need right now to feel supported? How can I be a friend to myself in this situation? Self-criticism asks questions like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just get my act together? When will I finally figure this out? Can you see the difference? One set of questions opens up possibilities. The others shut them down. Let's say you notice you've been snapping at your family because you're feeling overwhelmed. And instead of telling yourself you're a terrible mother, you're a terrible wife, you might say, "I notice I'm feeling overwhelmed and it's coming out as irritability. This makes sense because I've been carrying a heavy load lately. What do I need to do to take better care of myself?" Or let's say you realize you've been saying yes to commitments that you actually don't want to say yes to because you're afraid of disappointing people. Instead of berating yourself for being a people pleaser, you might say, "I notice I'm struggling to set boundaries. This makes sense because I've been practicing people pleasing for years, and it's a hard pattern to break. How can I support myself as I learn the new skill of boundary setting?" As I've been doing my own inner work, I have come to see myself as the amazing person God made me. This isn't because of anything I've done, but because I was made by God. And all of God's creation, all of the creations are amazing. Changing the way I see myself has changed me, my relationships, and my life. I really believe that by loving myself, I've created change in my small circle of the world. It isn't conceited to appreciate yourself. This isn't about believing you're better than anyone else, but understanding that you are of the exact same worth and value as everyone else on the planet. No matter how much money someone has, the accomplishments that they've achieved, or the amount of fame someone has, we are all equally valuable and worthy. We are unique, and we are meant to have our own unique experiences, but we are all equally valuable and lovable. When we can understand this truth, really understand this truth, we don't get thrown off when we haven't totally shown up or accomplished what we wanted yet. We understand that it's all part of the process, all part of the journey, because life is messy, growth is messy. So when things feel messy, you can know you are actually doing life right. The mess isn't evidence that you're failing, it's evidence that you're living and you're growing. The women I work with often ask me, but how do I actually do this? How do I stop being so hard on myself when it feels so automatic? We begin by noticing when you're being critical of yourself. Notice that. You don't have to change anything yet. You just notice. When you catch yourself criticizing yourself, simply say, I notice I'm being hard on myself right now. Once you can notice that self-criticism, you want to practice redirecting to a kinder thought, believable, but kinder. Remember, it doesn't have to be a complete 180. You're not just going to switch to the extreme opposite. It just has to be kinder and equally believable. So let's say you're thinking, I'm such a mess. You might redirect to, I'm figuring things out. If you're thinking, I'm failing at everything, you might redirect to, I'm learning and growing. Ask yourself, what would I say to my best friend if she was going through this? Then say that to yourself. We often have so much more compassion available for others than we do for ourselves. You are human. Humans learn by trial and error, by experience. Humans have emotional reactions. Humans sometimes make choices they later regret. Humans need time to develop new skills and habits. This isn't a character flaw. It's the human experience. Change is not a straight line. There will be days when you feel like you're making progress and days when you feel like you're back at square one. Both are normal and expected. The goal is not perfection, it's progress with compassion. As women of faith, I think it's important to consider how God views our journey. I do not believe that God is up there, that our heavenly parents are up there with a scorecard, feeling frustrated with our slow progress and disappointed in our humanity. I believe our heavenly parents see our hearts. They see our desire to grow and change. They see our efforts, even when they feel inadequate to us. They see our struggles with compassion, not criticism. God's love for you is not conditional on your performance or your progress. You don't have to earn their love by being farther along in your journey. You don't have to prove your worth by being perfect. You are loved exactly as you are right now in this moment with all your struggles and imperfections. This doesn't mean we just stop growing, but it's the foundation that makes healthy growth possible. When we try to change ourselves from a place of fear that we're not good enough, fear that we're running out of time, fear that we'll never figure it out, we create resistance and stress in our bodies and our minds. But when we try to change ourselves from a place of love for who we are now and love for who we're becoming, we create the conditions for sustainable, joyful growth. So here's what I want you to remember from this episode. You are not behind. You are exactly where someone would be who has lived your life and had your experiences. Your current struggles make complete sense given your history. Self-compassion is not self-indulgence. Being kind to yourself creates the foundation for lasting change. Being hard on yourself keeps you stuck. You can redirect your thoughts. You don't have to believe every critical thought your brain offers you. You can choose thoughts that are kinder and equally true. Starting where you are is not settling. It's the most effective way to create change that you want in your life. And God loves you. Your heavenly parents love you exactly as you are. Your worth is not dependent on your progress or performance. So this week, I want to invite you to practice one simple thing. When you notice yourself criticizing yourself, pause and ask yourself this question. What would I say to a good friend in this situation? And then say it to yourself. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Don't criticize yourself if you forget. Just practice when you remember. And this is how we start where we are, with small, kind steps forward. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Until next time, remember that you are exactly where you need to be. And the most loving thing you can do is to meet yourself there with compassion. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to subscribe and share it with a friend who might need to hear this message. You can also learn more about me at my website, www.seasons-coaching.com. Until next time, have a joyful week.